That Davis Show. I am Kenneth Davis. Follow me at That's Davis, an executive producer of That Davis Show, and Flippin' Friends is, of course, Ryan Bukoveski. Follow him at Ryan B. Ski and Ryan B. Ski 1. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing solid. Can't complain. Work's work, but we're almost to Wednesday, which is halfway.
Yeah, I mean, here it's spring break for kids in public school and people that work in education. So nobody's really doing anything except me during this week here at home. So it's been somewhat laid back. I did say that yesterday got in a little bit of the Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League, and it was really good.
Really? You're feeling it?
It was. I felt it, son. That's past tense.
Okay.
Felt. Listen.
Oh, so it ended the feelings. They didn't carry over?
No, it did what it needed to do. As I posted, I would have watched
it's not
2 more
like one
hours
of those Westworld episodes that stick with you for a whole week while you're like feeling it.
No, it's you know what? I'm surprised I didn't dream about it last night, because usually I end up having like just boomerang loop dreams, and I'll stay in whatever was happening or whatever I was watching that day, or some type of music that is stuck and earwormed in my head. But yeah, it was long, as you know what, and I don't even like movies that go 3 hours, to be honest with you, and that was 4. But listen, yeah, it was 4 hours.
I didn't know that runtime.
Yeah, and the thing is, to think of a movie that you've seen more than half of the scenes in it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe it's half, but you still watch the whole thing again longer, and you were pleased. It's saying a lot about that movie. But he was making sure we got fully what he was trying to give us, because it was basically like a movie and a half. It was like, no, I'm giving you all this because y'all got them to put this out. Y'all gonna get them to give me those next 2 and finish this trilogy off.
Nice.
But listen, if that would have came out, it's totally different from what Josh Whedon dropped a few years back, man. It was a good one. It was definitely a good one.
See, I was into it. I was seeing the reviews, and they looked beyond terrible. And I was just like, maybe my first instinct to already not want to see Justice League, the original,
right?
I guess, original, non-original, and then to see all these bad reviews, I was kind of like, maybe we'll just pass on this one.
It was worth it. It was worth it. But listen, I got an audible.
Wait, can I ask one more question? Obviously, it's no Avengers Endgame or any of that. It's not even close. But where are we on the scale with Justice League? Is this like, does it even come like halfway up the scale?
Yeah, that was an 8. I mean, if we're saying like Endgame is a 10.
Right.
I mean, okay, you could say it's a 7. Yeah, you could say it's a 7 because they're redoing something that already had dropped. You know what I'm saying? But when you see what Snyder was trying to convey, I mean, and one thing I did see, I think about it, was people supposed to, it's dark. Like at what point I'm like, you know, like from the initial thing is always like, well, you got to worry about Superman. You know, don't let anything happen to Lois because Superman's going to lose his shit, right? And at one point, and like they don't really touch on that until like kind of further than halfway through. Like, you know what happened? Maybe this is a bad idea, which is one of the things that I always said. I don't understand why they didn't argue a lot about what if they turned him like General Zod into Doomsday by messing around with the Krypton shit, the Kryptonian ship, right? Like, how do you don't know what you're doing, right? Like, so that was one thing. But at one part during the movie, I'm like, wait, we're always supposed to be looking at, is Superman changing? But what if it's all these damn mugs, right? Because it was like, whoa, hold up, right? This is a tad dark, right?
Good. I like when
it was good, dark. But I mean, it was just like, well, damn. So it was. I was thoroughly pleased. I'm just being honest with you.
I am a Marvel guy. By this. Yeah, I thought you'd be slamming this thing.
No, I left there like, give me more. Give me more. All right. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Give me more Zach and the pantsless man.
More Zach. It's kind of like more cowbell. Give me more. Give me more. I got a fever for the cowbell. Fever for the cowbell. I was watching that clip last week. I always love that clip.
All timer.
So with Christopher Walken, like I'm always SNL. I always love that one. Like that one was just, oh man. All right, but listen, I got a punt before we get to my first off top that I told you about. All right,
Okay.
so I got off top. This is a different off top, right? This off top is for
the Davis special, as I like to call it.
This off top, and I don't know, but you know what? I don't know if you have it in. Let me check with you. Let me go to my producer. Do you have any football schedule stuff in up for grabs?
No.
Okay, we can do this. Listen, this is real quick. NFL, Roger Goodell, owners in particular, you were so full of shit. Like for you to sit there and still, we knew it was going to happen, but for you to put this 17 that's going to go to 18 games, and for your lack of sincerity when it comes to caring about these players' life after football, and it was only 60 players. It was only 60 more players that agreed with going along with that CBA, which allowed them to win a new television contract, implement the 17 games and go to 3 preseason games from 4. It's only, think about it, only 60 players. Right? Like you guys, I put this on NFL players too. Y'all should have bribed those 60 cats because they was just thirsty. Right? But like, you know what, bro? I got an extra 150,000 for you if you say no right now. But to know that you're going to risk these players' life with more injury and how violent football is, and people say, well, that's their job. Yeah, man, but we already know the type of damage that it can do. So it's just one of those things. Anytime you see someone try to be sincere and you know it's fake, and we all know it's about the dollar, but still it's just, it'd be different if it was about the dollar and they had done everything in the past to try to protect players and to let them know about CTE. But when they have a history of trying to hide that and lie about what the effects of what the game has on these players' long-term health ability, it's repulsive, to be honest with you. And again, it is what it is. Am I going to watch it? Hell yeah. But I've always been a person I'm not with it. 16 games is enough. If you want to listen, if you want more football and it won't be your team, go to 2 preseason. I mean, go to 2 bye weeks, and you can expand the season. We'll watch another team. You know, sometimes we may go out. We'll still watch other football on Sunday too. You know what I'm saying? But the 17 games, which you know is going to be 18 games. It's just sad, but it's a sign of the times that they went from 12 to 14, they went from 14 to 16, they went from 16 to 17, and we know damn where they're going to go to 18. And before me and you probably leave this earth, they may go to 20, which is like, damn, that's a lot of football, especially if you don't implement. Yeah, listen, I'm not talking about viewership. I'm a watch, but as far as their bodies, it'd be
even as a viewer, I feel like that's getting too much. It's just getting too much. Well, it's like, the season's already, what, 4 or 5 months? Like, what are we going to do here? Like, you probably have to throw in another bye if you go to, like, 20 games. I know that's not what we're talking about. But
I will hope
man, if they're playing, like, 7 months of football, like, I don't know.
We'll watch it. But, and all like, the hint of Friday night football, NFL football. But, yeah, it's just, it's upsetting, but it's the world that we live in. And, again, like I said, I'm going to view it, but I just wish that the players weren't in this situation and ownership didn't just always go for the money grab, and the players are doing it too, but it's still just something that's disheartening to say the least. All right.
Wait,
let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
I gotta throw my 2 cents in this. Just that, like you said, I don't have a huge, like, when you lose me with the football players should play football argument when you look at a couple things. When the owners just, hey, let's give them an extra % of the revenue, that's really hard to turn down, especially if you're a guy that's only going to be in the league for 4 years, which is the average at best for most players. Obviously, if you're one of the stars, that does nothing for you. You want the big money, the big grab. But if you're not a star, and even if you play a different position, unlike quarterback where you're not protected, you just never know how quickly that can go. So a lot of these players get motivated to go after that 1% rather than hold out for more and more rightful rights that they deserve as players within their collective bargaining agreement. But that's really hard to do when you have such a small window. And I think the other thing that makes it just terrible is when you compare it to the other majors. Baseball, you just have to play in a major league game, I believe, to get health insurance for the rest of your life. In football, you have to like be in the league for years before you qualify for health insurance for the rest of your life.
It's went down, but it's lengthy. It's not as they've changed. The players have helped the older players I know in the last few CBAs, but it's still not what, like you're just saying. Hey, if you played 2 games a game, you should have some type of coverage, and the coverage used to go out after a certain period of time. So this sport out of all sports should take care of their players from when they enter the league to when they leave this planet.
Exactly. And that was just the short of my point. Compared to all the other major sports, the NFL has the worst health insurance, and they need it the most by far.
And when I mean leave this planet, I mean when they go to Mars, not when they die, because we know it's going to be football on Mars.
Man, you can't throw it on the moon first? We're already going to Mars? We're not going to be alive for that one.
Straight to Mars.
We might be alive for the moon ball. I don't know about Mars ball.
All right, listen. I enjoyed myself last night, and I found myself drifting at times watching NCAA women's tournament more than some of the men's game. And it's funny this year. I think I've seen parts of 4 Baylor games, perhaps at least this year. I was sucked in early in the beginning of the year the Dee Dee Richardson story when I remember, I think it was her first game back. Every time she got like fouled hard, I was like, oh no, right? Just seeing her come back from that spinal cord injury she had prior to the season. I started peeping a game of the 5th-year Stanford transfer, Dejanay Curlington, I believe. And look, I was watching that whole game yesterday between UConn and Baylor. You know what I'm saying? It was
watching
sweet.
The moment.
I was watching the moment. And it's a funny thing. Afton was in the laundry room, right? And she knows I was into it, and I'm cheering for Baylor, right? Because I kind of have a beef towards Gino. Yeah, she kind of let go. We hadn't let go right there. But the thing is this. And I get people. Did she get fouled? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Did she get fouled, folks?
She got fouled. But the problem is, you can't try to get the refs to bail you out at that point. That's what I said when it happened. I was like, because she tried 2 different times to penetrate. They tried pick and roll, and Shuddy was like, I'm going for it, right? And when she went for it, I'm like, this, she was getting to the basket more and breaking them down. But with the fadeaway, I'm like, I don't know about this with those two long ladies on her. And my first thought was, dude, they're not gonna bail you out right now, And then people will say like, man, hey, you got to call the game the whole way. I understand that, but historically, you don't get bailed out. And on the flip side, if it was your team, you'd be upset if somebody got bailed out. Now, Gino Auriemma talking about LeBron's tweet about them getting jobbed was like, hey, I'm sure LeBron has won a game that the referee took from another team, and he was okay with it. And I'm happy Gino was honest. And Gino Auriemma's daughter came out and was like, that's a foul, right? I wanted to see Baylor go. I probably want to see Baylor go all the way. You know what I'm saying? Because I think Dee Dee Richardson's story had me keyed up for Baylor this year, and then of course just Dejanay she's just coming in stealing all her brother's hearts, but was balling, just balling, right? But to see that game, it was a wonderful game. It was entertaining, and it's the thing too that people keep kind of forgetting, because people are like, well, Baylor let them catch up. That's taken out of context. D.G. Richardson, their best defensive player, she was the defensive player. I don't know if it was of the conference or if it was the nation last year. I could be wrong with right there. She pulled a hammy, right? It looked like she pulled him. I don't think she tore something, but she went down and it was like, oh no. And at this point, Baylor's up by like 8, right? And it's like a steady 8, basically. It's not like maybe only twice did Connecticut cut it down to like 3 or 4, but then it was like a steady 8. She leads the game. They put the freshman in at point. She's basically the primary ball handler. She kind of initiates offense, but I wouldn't look at her necessarily as like she's a true facilitator, but she still is the head dog. She tried to come back in. They taped her up. She was hobbling all around the court. That's how Baylor lost the game. Once Dee Dee Richardson went out and their best defender, and she had she was locking I forget the young lady who's the freshman at UConn is just killing from the mid-range game. Berkshire, I can't remember her name, and I don't want to mess it up. They got another one coming. It's UConn though, so they always have another one coming in.
Stop me if you heard. UConn got a strong women's program.
Yeah, they have another one coming in. She tore ACL, but she came back freshman next year. But anyway, the major thing is Baylor lost because Dee Richardson got hurt. And I think that kind of got swallowed up in what happened in the last seconds. And people have kind of like, well, Baylor gave the game up. Baylor didn't give the game up. Dee went out there and tried her darndest. You could see it in her face how much it hurt her because she had to believe if I was out there, we would have won. And it seems likely they would have won if she was out there. But it was a terrific game. I've seen like just some terrific games with the women's tournament this year. So shout out to all the ladies for just, being for giving us pleasing basketball, to say the least.
Yeah, no doubt. I haven't caught a lot of college basketball in general, but I definitely feel like the women's game is improving a lot.
Whoa, it's always been good, man. Stop! Don't do that.
I'm not saying it's bad.
I've always enjoyed it. I was always
catching up to another level. I really do.
Yeah, I go back and forth since '96 with Atlanta with the Redeem. When it was the Redeem team, with that females basketball team. I forget what they called the nickname for it. I've been a fan when it was the WNBA and was it I forget what the other league was. I don't know if it was the ABA. They had two leagues initially. That's how big women's basketball was after '96, and then after like 2 to 3 years, the other league folded. But yeah, I enjoy it. Sometimes I don't watch it as much, particularly because our team here, who I have waited to get good, and when they finally got a player that I wanted them to get, she didn't want to be here any longer.
That's a big thing for me. I usually only care about Chicago to begin with sports. Yeah.
So when you sit there and Sylvia Fowles wants out, when you look at it, you just see the players, and it's just, hey, they had perhaps the most gifted player in the WNBA wanting to go back home and be closer to her family. So it's just one of those things where that team doesn't sometimes, it just doesn't sit well with me. So it's kind of put a bitter taste in my mouth for women's basketball, because that's the team that I probably the women's basketball team I root for the most outside of Tennessee. Somebody needs to go down to Tennessee and bring back Tennessee. Period. Like it needs to happen. One of these former players, somebody has to bring Tennessee back. I need it. I'm happy there are more schools, and it's not just Tennessee and UConn. But I need Tennessee. I need to see that orange in a tournament. I need to see somebody carry the torch from Pat Summitt, who is one of the greatest basketball coaches I ever saw growing up in my life. I loved Pat Summitt at Tennessee, and I want to see that program resurrected to where it should be.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It might be tough. Sometimes when you lose that legend, you just never can have that same program.
True. But I mean, we got my girl. She may not want to leave South Carolina, but hey, Dawn Staley, Tennessee. It's Tennessee though. Tennessee. If I had Dawn Staley, Tennessee, my heart would explode. There'd be some of my loves would be. My heart would as a kid, I loved Dawn Staley. My heart
better make it to Mexico. This announcement has to come next year, I guess.
All right. It's time to get into a little bit of football. There's been a lot of moving and shaking in the draft recently. You had the San Francisco 49ers make a deal with the Dolphins to jump up to number 3 in the draft. The Dolphins moved down to 12. Then they jumped back up and made a deal with the Eagles to move to number 6, and the Eagles are going to move down to 12. And every team that I talked about received 2, outside of the Eagles, received 2 first-round picks. The Eagles received 1. The love of Laramie Tunsil. Laramie Tunsil produced 4 first-round picks from that move. They just keep that smoke mask just keeps on giving, doesn't it?
Good for him. Good for him.
Good for him. Especially because somebody planted that draft night, and that was always bogus.
Oh yeah.
But
and
listen,
it was overblown.
True, definitely. It was just that, like, what do you do that night? It's like, right. not like
I don't want the PR hit. Yeah.
Right. Which there's worse PR hits you can have now. We know that, right? So the thing is, one, and I mentioned this on the Under Center podcast this past week's episode. If this means, and again, I'm not saying he's not going to be successful. He's going to the right.
Can I just say something really quick?
I'll stop. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Because I was listening to the episode when I got this update of the rumor that you're about to talk about, and just like seeing the rumor update, notification on my phone, and then hearing you react, even though it was it was pre the report. Oh man, I got a big kick out of that.
Dude. Because let's put what we're talking about is this. We're football guys. That doesn't mean we're not coaches or anything like that, but we have football common sense. You know the type of quarterback that Shanahan's like. Like Mike Shanahan, Cal's father, he didn't have young John Elway. You know what I'm saying? He had more stationary John Elway. We knew the situation as far as with the Shanahans and Daniel Snyder wanting to draft Robert Griffin III. And then them drafting Kirk Cousins. I believe in the 4th round that year they drafted Kirk Cousins.
And throw Jay Cutler in there. Jay Cutler was sort of a dual threat.
Yeah, and Jay Cutler being sort of a dual threat. But I'll even look at him because Josh McDaniels was the person that traded him away.
Well, I'm just saying, Mike.
Yeah. But even then, Jay Cutler was a different type of freak, though. Like he was at Vandy. You was looking at him as being cerebral with arm talent. The legs were just a crazy plus at the time, right?
Yes, that was not the main selling.
It was not the man. You was not like, I want to see him out there just juking fools.
That's a plus that you saw later on. Like, hey, I like that.
Yeah. While he was carrying Vanderbilt in the SEC, while they was getting bludgeoned, but he was the one shining light. The thing is this, they seem to like a stationary quarterback. You look at Matt Ryan with Atlanta when Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. Again, you look at Kirk Cousins when him and his father were in Washington. Jimmy Garoppolo has a little bit more athleticism, but I'm sure he thought with Jimmy Garoppolo being the heir apparent to Tom Brady that perhaps he would be easily adaptable to the offense that Kyle Shanahan wants to implement, which hasn't necessarily come to fruition. So common sense kind of tells you, like, is he moving up to draft Trey Lance or Justin Fields? Yeah. Or is he moving up to draft Mac Jones? Because Mac Jones fits the profile, which is like, dude, if Mac Jones can go from a second round pick early this year, but really a 3rd round, 4th round pick after last season when Tua got hurt, really, right? And just had a phenomenal year, followed up Joe Burrow as far as having
here's Joe Burrow part 2.
Exactly. A ridiculous season, whatever, and it propelled him to this. But if it could get him to jump to number 3 in the draft, oh, buddy, I'm going to blow my top. And again, if anybody can do it, it's Kyle Shanahan. I'm not saying that he's not going to be a nice player. I think there are several teams that Mac Jones could go to and be a Pro Bowl player. One of them is San Francisco. One of them is definitely the Patriots. Definitely, if he ended up, depending on who the offensive coordinator was, in Atlanta, because that's the system. They're not asking the quarterback to be out there running with the ball or anything like that. And I believe in anybody Sean Payton gets his hands on. So actually, I'll say this too. Andy Reid can adapt too. You know what I'm saying? So there are several teams you look at and you be like, yeah, I bet that team, regardless of him being quote unquote sneaky athletic, as the term has been used recently, that they can make it work with him. The Bears, I don't think, could make it work with Mac Jones. I don't think the offensive line is stout enough to protect him, especially him being a rookie. It'd be different if we're talking about Mac Jones in year 5 and he's seen it all and done it all. But we're talking about Mac Jones in year 1 and he's not used to the pros, and then your offensive line may be somewhat questionable. But yeah, when sitting there and looking at the movements, my first thought was, well, we all know it came out today that the 49ers basically, or maybe yesterday, the 49ers owned up and said that, they're probably going to take a quarterback. All right, which common sense told us that, but they owned up and said, we're probably going to end up taking a quarterback. And then you look at Miami's movement to get back into number 6, and that has Devontae Smith, Chase Waddle, and Pitts from the Florida written all over. I'm interested in seeing who they take. And also it does say this too. It says that, and maybe it's because of the issues that's taking place in Houston, but it says that they're sticking with Tua. So a lot of things have been answered. And we find out the draft begins at number 4 with what Atlanta decides that they want to do. If they want to move back, how long, we know that Matt Ryan has moved some money around. But what they plan on doing, if they want to draft a guy and stash him.
And Ken, they might be in play for quarterbacks still. I mean,
it
could be Lawrence Wilson, probably. Well, let's just say Jones. Not probably. Let's just say Jones right now. I mean, you're only 3 picks away with still 2 quarterbacks, and the tackle's going.
Yeah, dude. My thing is this: Ohio State had their pro day today. Justin Fields ran the second fastest 40 time behind Robert Griffin III. Even though that doesn't mean that they're the fastest, I'm sure Mike Vick and Lamar Jackson ran unofficial times on their pro days at school. They just probably, I know Lamar Jackson didn't run in the combine, and Vick probably didn't run in the combine. If they're going number one, they're not giving you that clock time, that official clock time at quarterback. You could only is like somebody cocky trying to prove something, but 9 times out of 10 it's like, why do I have to do that? I'm going early in the draft. Now Vic went number one, and we know that Lamar Jackson went in the beginning of the second round, or they jumped right back to the back of the first round. The Baltimore Ravens did. But listen, it still lets us know a lot was going on, and it's still the chance that you may have four quarterbacks going in the first 4 picks ever in a draft, and it makes me think like, man, are we really overvaluing these cats? And
that's my headliner right there. That's the headline. We are seriously going to have 5 quarterbacks go in like the first 7 picks. Like, it is going to be quarterback bonanza, and I get it. Trevor Lawrence, he is arguably the best graded prospect since Luck, Elway, some of these guys. And so he's number 1, and he looks great. And Zach Wilson, he looks really good in his workouts, and he showed a lot of potential during the season. He rose up draft boards. He was always kind of looked at as a first rounder, but not necessarily number 2. He cemented that he's going to be the number 2, unless the Jets just fall in love with Fields or Lance for some reason. But logically, it's going to be Wilson at number 2. So if you're talking Mac Jones at 3, and then we got Fields and Trey Lance, like, first of all, with Mac Jones, I agree with you. He's being way too high at number 3. He should definitely be at the back end of the first round at the highest. Then you've got question marks all over with Trey Lance. I mean, he's got a ton of potential. We've obviously talked a lot about him, and we really like him, but he hasn't played football in like a year, and he's only played 1 full season at a Division II college, and he is pegged for sure to be a top 5 pick at this point. Like, it's whoa. Like, throw all the scouting reports out the window. Like, this is Christian Ponder on steroids all of a sudden.
This reminds me.
Emmanuel.
I'm going to forget some of these guys. Tim Couch, Akili Smith, K. McNown.
Did Cardale Jones still go in the first round? I don't remember. I feel like this is like Cardale Jones part 3 or something.
Woof. And Donovan McNabb. It's like some of the drafts where we've seen in the first round, quarterbacks get snatched, even though they didn't go 1, 2, 3, and 4, or 1, 2, and 3, but they were still overvalued. And it's like, wait, only really 1.5 of those dudes panned out, and neither one were the first like 2 or 3 guys taken. Or no, first 2 out of 3. Donovan McNabb did go in the top 7 in that draft. I think I don't know if Akili went after him. I'm not sure, but Tim Couch to Cleveland went number 1. I do remember that.
And you have all the other pieces. Like, you've got a dominant pass rusher, you got the tackle, you've got plenty of outside talent. Like, it's not like a draft that's like, well, the quarterbacks have to go, because it's a pretty weak draft overall.
No, like, it's a cornerback, receiver, tackle draft. And you're like, dude, I want that quarterback. Give me that quarterback.
Look at this. This is the picture I have. They have to decide between these 2, apparently. And it's like, how is it even a debate against Mac Jones and Justin Fields? But Justin Fields wasn't great. Mac Jones rises up.
You clearly have Justin Fields over Trey Lance with Kyle Shanahan.
That's a great point.
I don't know. Listen,
I would personally, but
common
for
sense
San Francisco, I don't know.
Common sense dictates you're right. All right. Common sense dictates. You're talking about a guy with 63 touchdowns and like 9 interceptions in 2 seasons in the Big Ten. But the people have been coming down on Justin so hard that I don't know. Part of me today was starting to think, is he going to be the guy that blows up and people are going to be like, oh, you guys are out-talked yourselves of getting him? Or is he truly going to be the one that was just a one-trick pony? And it's going to be like, you know what? It is good that we didn't get him, because it seems like a lot of people are down on him. I feel like this. If the Bears have a chance to get a quarterback now, he may be the guy.
Wow. And I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. And I think a big thing that's hurt Justin, he had kind of whatever year in a really down year in the Big Ten. I mean, Northwestern, Indiana, they were like the top 2 schools in the Big Ten besides Ohio State. Or I'm sorry, in the top 3 besides Ohio State. I get where you're coming from.
Talent. Northwestern's going to have 2 dudes in the first round, perhaps, if that cornerback goes in the bottom of the first.
I'll give you that. They definitely have some positive.
They have some. They got some talent.
But I mean, that's it, really, right? Like, who else was good in the Big Ten that you really saw? Justin, like, you should have dominated. To be honest, I mean, especially some of the.
It was a crazy year. It was a crazy year, though, man. Like,
I agree.
I agree. When are we going? When do they get the amateur excuse?
How do you look at it? You know, like, do you look at it as Justin should have dominated, or like it makes sense why Justin didn't dominate?
No, he should have dominated, but let's factor in a couple of things, right? He didn't get any ticket to Georgia. Like, this would be different if this was his 3rd season. This is his
always
second
comes back
year.
to Kirby Smart with you.
Come on now. What were you doing? What were you? You didn't win a national. It'd be different if they won. If Fromm, I know Fromm took him there. Ooh, I can take you there. I know Fromm took him there, but you should have moved off of Fromm and you should have put in this kid because you knew that there's only so far that Jake Fromm could take you, and you settled for that and let this kid just jump up out of there. And this could have been 2 years of you having him in the SEC running down Alabama instead of Alabama still giving you the business. Kirby, but yeah, I mean, he's only had 2 seasons, but they've been pretty good seasons when you look at the numbers. The question is, what happens when he gets to the 3rd read? That's what people basically say. If you get him to move off the 1st and the 2nd, that's when you have him. I saw Coach Day today said that he got to his 5th read easily, but he just says, "Coach, what is he going to say?" Sometimes he was. At his pro day, right? Yeah, so of course he's going to sit there and hype the kid up, and that's been his guy since he's taken over that head coaching situation. But yeah, I definitely think how it looks, and I could be wrong. Don't get it twisted. He's looking like the 5th guy, and I think that this is how this goes along with what you're saying. It's so crazy that I feel like Trey Lance not playing isn't even going to be a hindrance. It's kind of an asset because they don't have more film on him to be like, I don't like that.
Maybe.
Compared to what we're talking about with Justin, right? Because think about it. So let's just say Justin Fields doesn't play this season. Dude, if they don't have a season, he's the 2nd quarterback in the draft. Period.
Yeah, no doubt.
Look, Zach Wilson is.
There's no Zach Wilson.
Look, Matt Jones is it touching the 1st, right? Trey Lance would be he probably would go 1st, but it'll be like you can get him at 20.
Yeah, maybe 15 at the earliest.
But if you listen, Justin Fields would have went in the top 4 to 5. We knew Trevor Lawrence was going to go number 1 regardless. All right. Yep. But if this NCAA season never took place, Justin Fields was going to be the 2nd quarterback taken, unless somebody just had enough tape on Zach Wilson where they was like, you know what?
Or they fell in love on the pro day. Like, I just love this.
But that has got to be that. Yeah, exactly. Something like that. But for when you look at Trey Lance, and Trey Lance only playing 1 game this season, and then that conference saying we're done with it. There's no bad tape. That's the only interception he threw in his whole collegiate career was in that 1 game. The other year he played, he didn't throw any interceptions. So he doesn't have as many warts because he doesn't have as much tape on him. Now, some people can say that is a wart, but I think some people can gas themselves up to look at the tape and be like, you know what, I can work with this. I can take you there. Yeah.
That's a double-edged sword at all times. And maybe that's the thing to watch in this draft is, does a quarterback fall out of the top 7? Because if it does, is it just like the Bears and everybody else sprinting to try to get one of them?
Carolina's going to be up there so fast. Like, take my...
Like, if you're Dallas at 10 and Justin Fields is on the board, are you just like, come on in, open for business?
Hell yes. Do you... What you got? Like, definitely. Even though Dallas may want to... Dallas cap situation, they may want to use that asset. To be honest with you, they should use it on offensive line because that line isn't what it used to be. We need to stop talking about that line like it's the old
rounders for them.
I'm with you. You can get 2 first.
Settled at quarterback. You might want to be like, whoa.
True, but it's the thing of what value do you? Because of course we got to talk about the Bears in this situation. What value do you place on going from 10 to 20 and having a court?
I bet you can get a 1st rounder out of that.
No. I'm saying, of course, you're not going to go back and not get it another asset.
No. Like the first rounder plus the extra picks. But if you were getting in the top 10, you'd have to give up so many first rounders. If you're just going 10 spots, you might be able to get away with a first rounder and some other like second, third, 2/3, something like that.
Maybe. But listen, I don't think that guy's going to last to 10 because you're going to have Carolina. Who else may jump into that? It's another team that I'm blanking on. Right, you may have Washington, depending on what they want to do.
Your top 10 is Jaguars, Jets, 49ers, Falcons, Bengals, Dolphins, Lions, Panthers, Broncos, Cowboys. All those teams need a quarterback. Except for maybe the Bengals.
Broncos want a quarterback.
And the Cowboys, right.
You would have to just hope that this is the thing. You would have to hope none of those teams like that quarterback. And if they don't like the quarterback, why do you? And I'm not saying that's how you should look at it. If you see something and identify something in someone and you're saying, forget that, I know what I can do with this guy, and you can prove it, that's one thing. They haven't been able to prove it with that position here when we're talking about the Bears.
Yeah, you kind of have to hope that teams really go by best player available. That's the only way a quarterback's going to fall to you because they're overdrafting them.
But you make the point, Ryan, when you just said that even if someone's going to draft up. Like you don't have the draft equity to beat the guys that are going to draft up to take that quarterback, let alone the people that are sitting there that's like, he may fall to us. So you basically have to you have to pray to get to 6 and hope nobody else jumps up. Mm-hmm. Like that's what you have to where's Cincinnati at? They're 5 or 6. The number 5, like you basically got to get there and then hope a team is just willing to take whatever you slanging, and you better be slanging it.
And for them, they might be like, you know what? We're good. We got the quarterback. Let's get a top 5 pick right now of whatever position we're thinking about.
You just take your tackle bears and just go eat, this nasty porridge that you done put together.
Oh man, yeah. Don't throw the Bosch under the bus.
Just sorry, man. It's bad business to say the least, but it is what it is, man. It is what it is. But
they dug their grave.
Yeah, now they got a lie in it. But while we're still talking about trading and horse swapping, that wasn't the only trade that was particularly important here in Chicago. And I know the Bears didn't make a trade, but it still implies what capital they may have to give up. But it also shows that they just may be out of it when it comes to getting a quarterback because teams are already moving up and teams are giving up draft equity. But the Bulls made a deal.
Is this what we got?
You got Bucci and Zach together back to back.
And I picked this one because they're playing at an all-star level right now, too. The entire team, actually. Psych!
The Bulls made a trade with the Orlando Magic for Nikola Vucevic. They sent the wonderful Wendell Carter. That looks like it's airbrushed right there. That ain't legit right there. That ain't legit right there. I could tell that.
Look, they got the cutout fans in the background.
Oh, come on. That doesn't matter. That right there is Patrick Williams' body, and they just swapped the arms, neck, and face off right there. That's the
delete the melanin. Delete it.
But listen, the Bulls sent to Orlando Magic Wendell Carter Jr. We wish him the best. It didn't work out. Wendell was suspect on this show. No hate. It just didn't. I didn't see it. And 2 first-round picks that are protected in the first 4 picks from this year and 2023. They also made some deals sending Daniel Gafford and Chandler Hutchinson to Washington in swaps with the Washington Wizards and the Boston Celtics. The Bulls got back Tice, Troy Brown Jr. Who else did they get back? I'm missing Mo Wagner. Shout out to Michigan tonight and his brother playing on that team. No, Mo Wagner went to the Celtics. The
Bulls did acquire him, and then
and they sent him to the Celtics. I'm missing one more cat. It's not important.
Yes, you are. I know you are. Yeah. I'll get you the name. Go ahead.
But listen, the Bulls, they stepped out now. And one of the questions that we've always asked on this show was what was the direction that Arturius Counter-Service was going to take, and also what did he sell Billy Donovan? Because it didn't make sense that Billy Donovan, who could have had a myriad of NBA jobs, not to say he could have gotten the top, but he can get all of the second to the middle probably if he would have waited or just been out there longer this season. That Billy Donovan sat there and took this job. You would think that Arturius Counter-Service didn't tell him it's going to be like a 3.5 year, slow, methodical pace that we're taking through the draft. That he had to entice him with, we're not going to wait to win. This direction says that, but they got to play a lot more games together. But it's a good move by the Bulls. He's an all-star center. He's got to be probably, and I'm not naming him off my head right now, the 5th or 6th best center, perhaps in the NBA, I would say. But you got Embiid, you got Joker. Who else you got that's killing it really from the five position?
Rudy.
You got Rudy. I was slightly, perhaps, I would probably take Vucevic over Rudy, and it's crying though. I'll say that much. It's just a little whiny. But so we're saying right there, top 4, top 5 guy.
Javonte Green, by the way.
Yeah, and Javonte Green, who had fallen out with Scotty Brooks with the Wizards, and is probably going to get a chance pretty young. I believe he's 21 years old, swingman, that the Bulls can sit there.
Wow, good for Javonte Green. If you fall out with Scotty Brooks, that means you're falling up to whoever you're getting.
Talk that talk, Ryan. Talk that. Scotty, I'm a point guard, but I can never teach Russell to be a point guard. Russell just won't listen to me, Brooks. You see Russell went off last night when he didn't have Bradley Beal and they won a game. Russell had like 30-something and 20. Like, he had a phenomenal night, but it was like all me, baby. All me. The problem is y'all got these other stars next to me. I need an old AI team. All right. Try hard. Give me a center that can play defense and just let me go out and do my thing is what I need to do. I need to do my thing.
Can everyone else defend while I do everything else?
Why star? But yeah, so the Bulls definitely made a big move. Also, this says that they're going to build around Zach LaVine. Zach proved it to this front office that, you know what, I'm going to work hard. Zach's been in that lane so hard this year. That's every time I tune into Bulls to see a highlight, the fact of seeing him just go to the hole and not sitting there and settling for jump shots, even though we know his jumper is wet, has made me feel a lot better about Zach. I've been feeling good about him for at least 2 years, but it's emboldened even more. It's like, all right, Zach, you know what I'm saying? But all you are is really one dude off. But the problem is now you're going to have to really start tinkering with the defense, because Zach, Nikola, these names aren't going to be in the annals of best defensive player as Draymond Green wants to talk about and discuss. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to show up anywhere in that hall. So you're going to you got Patrick Williams. You're going to need whoever that point is. He better be able to D somebody up super crazy. And whoever is going to be the long-term guy, if it's going to be Patrick Williams playing power forward, whoever's going to be that long-term guy at the 3, he's going to have to be a nice defender too, because you know that those aren't the strengths when it comes to your 2 all-stars in Nikola and in Zach LaVine. But if you ask me if I like to trade, I like to trade. And also gives you this too. Gives you assets. Like, and I know no one said this, at least from what I've heard, but let's just say next year you're not liking the way this is going. You could still trade Nikola Vucevic to another team with another year on his contract that's low. You know what I'm saying? Or you could move Zach. I mean, and I know next year Zach's last year, but you could move Zach, and if you can think you can find somebody else that can maybe fill that hole a little bit more, but Zach isn't going to be as attractive because next year's his last year. And he probably shouldn't re-sign with the Bulls if he is going to re-sign to after next season, because I believe probably then I know he can get more money, but I don't know if Zach had been in the league for 10 years at that point. Zach's only been in the league for what, like, he was in the league 3 years before he got his 6 years. Yeah, so he won't get he's not at his 10-year point where he can get to 30-some% of the cap, but still with his service time he can get more money and be fully maxed out. So definitely we'll see. I want to see how Billy Donovan uses these players. I'm sure that he definitely had to have some input. It seems like him taking his job, he gets to pick a little bit more of the groceries than maybe Sam Presti was going to allow him to pick up. But yeah, it's a good trade. And again, I wasn't a window guy. My only problem is that giving up 2 number ones, and I don't want to sound disrespectful, it just shows the value that Wendell had. Like, if Wendell was doing close to what Wendell was doing, but still you didn't look at him as being offensively efficient enough to be able to be the guy that you can start initiate some of your offense from, and be that outside threat, but he was still the defender that you expected him to become, you would have probably only had to give up a 1 pick him and maybe a little bit more change. But with him being somewhat of a reclamation project right now, you had to send 2 ones with him, even though who knows how many teams was out there for Vucevic, because he does have to be an all-star, a pretty attractive contract moving forward.
Yeah, don't disagree with anything you're saying. I like the trade overall. And now it just, can you build a defense around Zach and Vooch, I guess, because, I mean, Zach has improved somewhat as a defender. Maybe he can continue to, but I think Vooch has kind of written his story as a defender. So, I mean, the Bulls are getting closer to what we want them to look like, but they're going to hit a critical junction coming up here pretty soon where it's either going to be bringing in a free agent with money, find a creative way to get another kind of trade, because odds are you're probably not going to be drafting your next star unless you hit them in 2022.
Listen, I hope we stick it to the Orlando Magic. And they're Pat Williams, the old front office guy that went back to back winning the number one pick with Shaq, and ended up being Penny, but Chris Webber traded to the Golden State Warriors for Penny. I hope they hit number 4 at least. And Orlando's like, damn it, right? If they can get out of this and hit into the top 4, I would be like, salute, right? Like, I don't know where that 4-leaf clover you keeping is at, but shag out. Like, I would be ecstatic. But yeah, it looks like common sense would dictate that it's not going to happen. But listen, right now they're on the skid now, and again, you would expect perhaps, even though sometimes people make a trade and they go on and they click quicker, but they're finding each other out. They're sitting there. Vucevic has to get used to the plays. They have to get used to the type of spacing and where each other likes to ball. They have to just gain familiarity. And I'm talking about Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but they don't have that much time if their goal is to try to get it out of the play-in and to try to get to the 6th spot. So they're going to have to start cranking out some victories. I would say at least in the next week. I know they were initially, but when the trade happened, they were like 3 games out of the 6th spot, and they've lost the last 2 games.
And they're probably going to lose their next upcoming games with, what is it, the Nets, the Suns, and the Jazz.
The Nets, order. I know they got Kyrie back, so the Nets have Kyrie back. Yeah, that Nets one.
And that's my other point is it's not necessarily surprising because we knew the Bulls stunk last year, and they're not going from stunk to one of the best teams in the NBA. But if they've struggled anywhere this year, it's against good competition. They have been really bad against good teams. That's got to start changing at some point if they're going to do anything this year in terms of being a 6th seed.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking forward to it. I definitely tuned into that first game. And at halftime, I was like, I think I don't have to dedicate any more of my time to this. I know they made a comeback run, but still, it's they're working out the kinks. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. And listen, it was something we talked about. It starts to make the Bulls a tad bit more much-watch TV. And with so many things going on, why am I going to tune in when it seems like they're going through the motions as far as trying to get this team back into contention, where, initially it looked methodical. And now since they did this jump start, we'll see what they're going to do. Maybe they'll get a free agent. I don't know if we know that initially perhaps they were trying to trade for Lonzo Ball. I don't know if this team and just Lonzo Ball is that much of a difference. I'm sure having a point guard does benefit you, but that much of a difference. And one of the things me and you were talking about on the last show, one of the questions you asked, what's more important, a center or a point guard? And we were saying a center that's like Vucevic to a certain degree, but we're also talking about a rim protection. And, so defensively, someone that can help defensively, because either you won't help with the point guard stopping the initial goal, or you want the center to be able to clean up what the guards are basically doing if they're being too advantageous or they're just not D'ing up well enough to be over to clean up all that type of mess. So we'll see, man. I mean, but at least it's interesting. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like the Otto Porter trade where it was like, well, you know what? They weren't going to sign a free agent. They get him, so it's not bad. And it ended up being bad. The Otto Porter trade ended up being a bad trade because basically he wasn't healthy. Regardless of if you felt like his contract was a burden, the reality is we never really got to see Otto Porter do his thing here. So that makes that trade clearly a bad trade. And I don't think that's going to be the same thing with Nikola Vucevic.
I agree. Thank God he's gone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I didn't say that part. And Otto Porter went down there. I should have said this. We got rid of the juniors. Juniors.
And we needed to get rid of some juniors.
Our tourists went down there like the juniors. The juniors over there? Yeah, tell them to go. Tell them they out. They out. You too. Out. Right.
For real.
Deuces. So listen, good luck to those gentlemen. Hopefully Wendell really becomes the player that he was predicted to be, and he can get paid and he have success. I know from anybody that I've had contact with him, he seems like a real genuinely good young man. But work on that game. Stop worrying about all the other stuff.
Preach.
All right, we're getting closer. And also, we did an interview with Lamont Pope from the Tribune. Make sure you check that out. Talking White Sox baseball. It's time for the Boys of Summer. All right, it's about to start off this weekend. The Boys of Summer, man, it's about to start off, and my heart is still broken from what happened with Eloy. But Lamont, he rose my heart up, man. He put a little wind beneath my wings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you should still have that wind. Maybe a little turbulence right now, but
he lifted my
still
sails.
have that wind.
He lifted my sails. But yeah, we got, what I'm saying, the Cubs and the White Sox. They open up on Thursday. It's definitely the Cubs are going to be here in Chicago. White Sox are going to be in Anaheim.
Yes.
White Sox will be taking on Joe Madden's team. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to doing some midday work for the JOB and having the Sox game on while I'm doing it and taking it in or the Cubs game. You know what I'm saying? But in particularly the Sox. That's my squad, but I do watch both of them. And just hopefully this season is a breath of fresh air, and it's an addition to what they did last year, and it's not a regression because on paper they're even better. And that's what I'm looking forward to. One of the things I did ask Lamont, it's funny because we had this debate on Shauna Maya, I believe, was if you had your druthers, who would you have wanted to go to the Rangers for Lance Lynn? Would it have been Dane Dunning or Dylan Cease? And he brought up just the type of stuff that Dylan Cease necessarily has. He didn't give it clear, but he did basically go with Cease. I'm a Dane Dunning guy. I think Dane Dunning has some nasty stuff. I don't mean just physical. I just think mentally he has some intangibles. But we'll see what Ethan Katz can get out of these pitchers. I'm ecstatic to have Ethan Katz as the pitching coach, even though we always love our guy Don Cooper, but it was definitely time to go. But listen, tell me a little bit of what your expectations are on the north side. Outside of the Eloy thing, and a lot of little nagging injuries with the Sox, but still you're looking at the team that's been in contention so far from the spring training coming to almost to completion. What have you seen from the Cubs, and what do you expect is going to happen? And don't just do it out of you mad it's not what it should be, but maybe it could be something because they still do have a decent amount of talent out here, just low V.
Well, I think what do you get out of KB? It's the same thing every year in terms of that. If KB is not going to be your all-star MVP superstar type, puts a lot of pressure on the rest of that lineup. And Rizzo, he's been declined the last few years in terms of his numbers. We'll see if that's just been a little blip and he's going to go back to his regular numbers, but no guarantee right now. Wilson Contreras, he's really been half a season type guy. You usually get a good half of the season first or second of the season. So can he kind of be?
We call that. You got to.
What do you call it? I don't know.
A Paulie Canerco year.
Oh yeah, a Paul.
You should know that. It's a Paul Canerco year.
So can he be more than Paul Canerco is the question. And then I think the other big piece is, can Jock Peterson carry over anything that he's been doing in spring training and bring that into the regular season? Because I think you kind of know everything else. Like, you know what Jason Hayward's going to be, and hopefully that's just solid and not one of his more down years. Ian Happ, I think he's a good, solid player, but I don't know if he's just going to hit a superstarness. So he's going to be another really good piece for you, but you need that extra oomph from the offense, especially if Chris Bryant isn't there. And then the other thing is Javi, of course, because Javi, he really has been hurting ever since the MLB has been cracking down on the video between innings so that they cut down on some of this cheating, and he really relied on that for making his adjustments at the plate. And he had a really, 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 really bad year, albeit a pandemic-shortened season. So what is he going to be? And then you got to look at that rotation. They bring in Adbert Alzolay as the 5th starter, and Jake Arrieta, he's going to be the number 2. Do they provide enough difference in the pitching rotation that guys like Davies, Hendricks, and the soft tossers aren't kind of keyed in on? Even Trevor Williams, they're not going to be keyed on by other teams, especially if you go a 4-game series or something like that. So if the pitching staff can hold up, bullpen, I don't know, because Craig Kimbrell is another guy that they're going to rely on, and he's just not looked very good at all so far. Maybe some moments here or there, and he definitely closed out last season pretty well. But it's really coming down to the pitching and the offense coming together, I think, because individually, like you said, the Cubs could be a good team with the collection of talent that they have, but it has to come together. And they have to work in synchrony a little bit, because especially over the last few years, the Cubs' problem, when the offense has been there, it's usually the pitching staff isn't. When the pitching staff's there, usually the offense isn't. It just doesn't seem like it's been syncing up enough where they can go on extended winning periods. It's usually a good period followed by some kind of bad period and then a lot of in between.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of try to come with a bit more of a ray of sunshine, because you still have the core players that you mentioned. And even if they give you a half a season, it may be better than perhaps what's going on in St. Louis, even though St. Louis is looking pretty stout with the moves that they made. But it's still a chance in a weak division that the Cubs may be able to overdo it.
But they have to understand that probably the wild card isn't an option. So they have to probably win this division.
It's David Ross's second year, and we'll see the improvements that he makes. And also perhaps that can be the difference between trying to get in the wild card and taking the division, because maybe you got a manager that's a true taskmaster and can punch the buttons and get everything he needs to get out of his players.
Yeah, and I think with Rossi, he's going to obviously improve. But the only thing is we just know that managers can't have that much control over how their team is playing. So it really comes down to these individual pieces. And even with what you're saying, I agree. If you get a half a season out of everybody, that's not the worst. And I think that they can contend in that division.
It's not the same half. As long as it's not the same half.
That's what I'm saying.
If those guys are doing different halves.
Yes, yeah. That was going to be my point. It has to sync up. It seems like when something's going good, something else is dragging it down enough that the good doesn't overpower it. And it's never just that period of just good.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, I wish right now with Eloy going out that Jock Peterson was on the south side instead of Adam Eaton, making sure you had more fire in that offense now.
Thank God he waited. I don't know what the hell he was waiting for, but we need it.
Boy, you think about it, you could have had Adam Eaton.
Oh, I mean, you thought I wasn't giving ray of sunshine then.
I can see Anthony Rizzo punching him in the face now.
If I wasn't already, I'm down here in Arizona. I could do it myself.
I was talking about you being in Arizona with Lamont during the interview. So make sure you check that interview out. We posted it already if you're seeing this. But listen, it's about time to close out the show. And you know that's mean it's time to go up for grabs. Up for grabs, 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 grabs. What you got, Ryan?
That should be the intro for it. Just your face making that. We're all basketball today and up for grabs. And we're going to start with the college basketball tournament, the men's side. And we kind of know the final 4 teams. We're recording, so we're still waiting on the final result. But Gonzaga had their impressive victory. Baylor's in there. Houston's in there. How you feeling about this? Waiting on Michigan, which would be 3 number 1 seeds. The only one missing would be Illinois. So what do you think? Is it kind of surprising that all the top seeds are here?
I had 3 number 1s and 1, I think, number 2. I forget where I got burned at. The problem is I told you I didn't take Michigan, even though I wanted them to win it all. I had them losing in the not this round, the 2 rounds before to Florida State, which I should have went with my heart, but I was trying to go with that bag. Damn it! I wish I would have had Michigan make it to the Final Four. But also I thought 1 Final Four team, 1 number 1 seed wouldn't go, so that's why I didn't have Michigan also going. So I had Baylor, Illinois, and Gonzaga as my 2 my 3 number ones. So
Nice.
yeah. So and I got Gonzaga winning the whole thing, but I wanted Michigan to win it. I wanted Michigan to maybe win it as much, if not as I wanted Illinois to win it, just because of Juwan Howard. And I wish I would have just went with that when I was writing out my bracket, but I didn't. Listen, Gonzaga is a well-oiled machine. Listen, they just did the damn thing.
I'm rooting for them pretty hard. I feel like.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I want Mark Few to get one.
Especially Mark, you know what? You'd rather have Mark Few have an undefeated season than bad Bobby Knight. You know what I'm saying? Chair throwing, throat choking. You don't see Mark Few doing something like that.
Old assaulting Bob, eh?
Yeah, it's time for that to go. You know what I'm saying? So, and that old outfit that Bobby Knight has on, and when it's like this tight plaid jacket and whatever, it's like ugh. So yeah, I'm rooting for the Zags. But if I'll say this too, if not the Zags, definitely that I want the Michigan to win it.
Yeah, I think Michigan's a great story. I actually don't mind Baylor. Kind of like their story too.
I like Baylor too. I should have said that. I like Baylor too.
I'm going Zags pretty hard. I even like Houston though. Kevin Sumlin coming back from Indiana.
Sumlin, but I don't like Houston. I like Sumlin. I liked him since Oklahoma, but I don't like it. Still, it's like Houston. How do I feel about this?
Yeah, I know.
So it's like,
but Sumlin, like
Chicago State can't never make it. I'm sorry. I know it's not even the same. I mean, but still.
But yeah, as much as this has been the upset city final or NCAA tournament, this Final Four looking somewhat predictable.
Yeah, it definitely. And I mean, it's been definitely top heavy. There's been some good games, even the games that your team may have lost and you expected them to win. But yeah, it's definitely been top heavy. And like I said, I've enjoyed both tournaments this year, the men's and the women's tournaments.
Yeah, they've been really, really exciting and good.
Especially coming off of you didn't have any tournaments last year because of the pandemic.
Yeah, and like I just said, you get the upsets, but you're still getting the top heavy because I don't know about you, but just having a tournament, let's say Final Four was like 12 seeds and under. I don't know if we'd be buying into that.
But I mean, also let's not forget about all those lower seeds that took out the higher seeds this year.
But that's what I'm saying. You're getting a good balance.
Yeah, you're getting keeping. Yeah, right. Still, you got the riffraff out, but for a second it looked like the riffraff was going to be up in the big time show. I'm joking to all those schools, Roar Roberts and everybody else. Loyola, I'm just playing games.
We were talking about you, Harvard. Get that riff.
Damn Harvard riff-raffery. All right, last one. Let's get out of here.
My last up for grabs, Steve Nash responded to some of the comments about, well, really just from social media and everybody else. And now reporters are asking basically about the additions that the Nets are making with LaMarcus Aldridge and already making with Blake Griffin and looking like this mega super team. And I just want to read one of the quotes from what he said. I don't hear it. I live in my Nets bubble, Nash said on Monday. I don't know what anyone says about us. To be honest with you, it's not like we did anything illegal. I don't know what we're supposed to do. Not try to add to our roster and just sit pat? And I know from us talking about it, I guess you're not supposed to, but boy, I really wanted them to because this is some jank.
He's not supposed to. The NBA has to do something with the buyout. Depending on it has to be based on whatever team they're going to, how many type of maxed out contracts in the past the players on that team have received. Has to be some type of way like that, or you can only go to teams that are this seed and below. Like you can't go to the top 3 teams in whatever conference after the buyout. You got to go to the teams that are lower than that. That's what needs to be done because
I like your first option, that max buy. How many max contracts?
If you've had guys that have been max, if you got like 5 guys that have been max, let alone how many maxes have they received? No, you can't get this kid. And I mean, I guess you can also look at it age-wise because guys could be at the very end of their career, but it has to be some type of algorithm you can come up with. But you have to save these. It's not saving these teams for themselves because they're doing what they should do to secure the championship if they're going to win the championship. But it just competitive-wise, it sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like you could have had Blake Griffin, and I mean, okay, give him Blake Griffin. All right, here you can have that. But LaMarcus Aldridge should be on another team. Like, like it would have been a lot more interesting to see LaMarcus Aldridge with the Heat and elevate the Heat and rise the Heat up to be much more of a threat than to see him be the cherry on top of making sure that nobody in the East is going to take the Nets out now, almost regardless of KD's health. KD can be 80% for the rest of the year, and you can't beat the Nets. That's just no. You have to do something to safeguard against this. And so Steve Nash is doing what Steve Nash should do. Steve Nash is making sure that in his first year, he's come under some criticism because he jumped the line. He's gonna make sure I'm gonna show you why I jumped the line. So I don't blame him, but I blame the NBA and I blame Adam Silver and David Stern. Because they could have taken care of this in the past. This has kind of been getting out of hand. You know what I'm saying? But this year, it made it really. It was really kind of just like it's a tad bit too much. So
especially when it all funneled into Brooklyn.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't even really get mad at Andre Drummond going to the Lakers because at least the Lakers are hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like Anthony Davis may not be 100% the rest of the year, and on top of that, it's Andre Drummond. I mean, I'm not dissing him, but it's a defensive rebounding cat, basically, who can be a 4. He's an old school player in the new school NBA. He's still viable, but like even an old LaMarcus Aldridge can get out there and give you 17 and 8 and give you that 17 in a myriad of ways. And the thing is, in San Antonio, a guard may have to leave his man and come down just to kind of get the ball out of LaMarcus' hands, or just, to put a little pressure on him. Nobody's doubling LaMarcus Aldridge or even just sending a man, you know what I'm saying?
Andre Drummond,
No, I'm just saying now because I'm talking about LaMarcus Aldridge because of the talent around him. You're not leaving Kyrie. Okay. You're not going to leave the Beard. You're not going to leave KD. You may leave Blake Griffin, but like they got so many players that like these former former All-Stars can just get busy because they're playing with so much talent. They're used to seeing 2 guys go at them, and nobody's going to send 2 guys at them.
By the way, we have breaking news. We found out that Andre Drummond was going to the Nets, but then David Stern said no, and so he had to go to the
Nets. That would be funny. But yeah, so again, it's fine that teams are making sure that they can do it. I'm not saying the team should be like, you know what, that could help us, but let's not do it. And on top of that, we don't have to give up any draft capital. I'm not saying that, but as far as somebody watching the league, it takes away from what the playoffs could be because those players could be better threats on teams that have talent, but not as much talent as those super teams.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a bunch of BS when we see teams just stack up like this, and NBA's got to try to get some parity. Like every sport kind of has built-in parity except for the NBA. I mean, you can't just have at most 3 teams viable, and they're lucky when they get 3 teams viable for the title.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like you got to get it at least like 2 in each conference and set up some mega, like even like we had the battle for LA. If that doesn't come true, fine, that doesn't come true, but it can't just be like, this is the finals, really.
Right. I mean, and right now, with LA being hurt, it definitely seems like it's open in the West to where three teams, perhaps 4 can maybe do it. But in the East, who's really going to be the healthy Nets team? You know what I'm saying? Like Joel Embiid hasn't even come back, right? So we don't even know how. Is
Giannis going to start Steph Currying from the outside?
I'm just saying, like, who can beat that? Dude, on top of that, now you got DeAndre Jordan, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Blake Griffin, and that's what 18 fouls that you can give on Giannis, and also he has to D these guys up. Not DeAndre Jordan as much on the other end, but like you're wearing his ass out. Like it's just, I would have loved to see LaMarcus Aldridge go to the Heat. You know what I'm saying? Because them just getting Oladipo isn't one of those things where it's like, man, you can't stop the Heat. And then you get an older LaMarcus Aldridge who can come in there and play alongside Bam and step in for Bam when Bam needs a rest. I think it would have been a super nice squad. He just didn't want to go down there and deal with the Miami way. He was like, you're gonna be doing what? You're gonna be getting up in about 4 a.m. You said what? No, I'm joking. I'm sure with Pop, he's used to being regimented, but still, yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it is the best for the league moving forward, and they need to do something. And I'm not saying that these players have to go to teams that aren't going to make the playoffs or their chances are just dire, but I'm saying they should go to teams that are up and coming. Like there should be a weighted system They should be on waivers.
Yeah.
Their contract is voided out. But they have to go to waivers, is what it should be.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's what
if you want, make it only playoff team waiver or something.
Yeah,
If
exactly. But worst team,
yes, at the bottom
to the top team, or even if it's not the worst team, six to the top. Then, if we just to be fair to the player, 6 to the top. But yeah, you have to do something like that.
I'm with you.
All right, listen, we always appreciate it. Again, make sure you check out the Lamont Pope interview if you want to get some Sox talk in. It was pretty good Sox chatter. Follow him at Lamont Pope, a reporter for the Tribune, the beat reporter for the White Sox. Always thanks to Ryan, getting terrific guests and producing the show excellently. Always appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us. Make sure you check out the Under Center podcast and also Flip It Friends. And if you do anything, man, please stay safe because you know it's crazy out here.